Hey everyone, Dave Turnbull, current public address announcer with the Manitoba Moose, joined by somebody that everybody knows, Jay Richardson, current Winnipeg Jets public address announcer, but also former Manitoba Moose public address announcer. That's right. Well. Yeah. There was a third one. Evan Duncan was kind of supposed to be here in between us.
I guess some things are more important than us.
That's right, yeah. Hey, but Jay, why don't we just start here? You've been doing this gig for a long time. So take us back to the beginning, how you got the gig to start off with the Manitoba Moose.
Yeah, it was actually the 20th anniversary of my first ever hockey game. I did the last 4 games at the Winnipeg Arena, and that would have been October of 2024, before obviously being what was at the time MTS Center on November of 2004. Yeah, it was. I was doing a radio show Saturday nights at the Winnipeg Arena. Yeah, we had an on-location sort of thing. And I just remember listening to the guy who was doing it at that point in time and thinking, what a cool job that would be. You get to be like every time he made a goal announcement, people were cheering, and if it was a controversial penalty, people were booing, and people were cheering the last minute of play. And I thought, that's awesome. I would love to have an opportunity to do something like that. And I was working for the station that had the broadcasting rights, so. I had some feelers in there, and a little birdie told me that they might be looking to have a fresh voice in time for the start of the new building. And I put my name in and auditioned in a very empty Winnipeg Arena in August of that year. And
did you ever think you'd be still doing it 20 years later?
I mean, I hoped so. I hoped that. Boy, what's a good way to put this? I knew that I had a hope that the NHL one day might come back to Winnipeg. I was kind of an early adopter believer of that sort of thing. And, I knew that, going from the AHL to the NHL was a step, and maybe they'd want a different voice. But I decided, what, I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to say yes to everything that they offer and they ask me to do, and let the chips fall where they may, and I'll respect whatever decision that the company ends up making. And I was just really fortunate that they decided that they wanted to continue with me.
My journey's a little bit different. So I started doing the in-game hosting with the Moose when the Moose came back.
I remember that.
I did that for quite a few years. Had lots of fun. It's a fun job. It's so different from what we're doing now.
Yeah.
You're in the crowd. You're talking to the fans. You're making sure they have a good time. Especially, as you know, Moose games versus Jets games. Moose games, lots of families, lots of kids. You want them to make sure that they're having fun. They're looking at themselves at the big screen, right? That's what they're there for. So that was a lot of fun. But had the opportunity to fill in for the PA announcer during my last season as the in-game host when Evan couldn't make it one game, and man, I had a lot of fun. Actually, and it was also when the Women's Worlds were here.
Oh, yeah.
They needed somebody to speak French. I don't think you speak French.
No,
right?
I don't.
That's right. So Kyle had reached out to me. He knew I spoke French. So he said, could you come and just do it that one? And I was like, I would love to give it a try.
So you and I flip-flop jobs. I would have been in the crowd for
there
the
you
Women's
go.
Worlds.
Right. That's right.
Because,
yes,
I didn't have the bilingual aspect of things. So I was giving stuff away.
Yes.
And I think that was the time I got to interview Steve Yzerman in the suite.
Yeah,
so my heart was pounding and my palms were sweating, but that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So when you went from being an in-game host to doing the PA, the first game, how was it like being thrown in the deep end, or did you call on the experiences you had being in the crowd enough to be able to make a decent go at it?
I at least felt comfortable enough being in that environment because I had been in that environment for so many seasons, right? But it is so different. I always tell people that the differences in the jobs are that I actually get to watch hockey now, right? Like when you're in game hosting, you're so busy running around just figuring out what giveaways next, all that kind of stuff, that there were times where I would go home and not even know what the final score was just because you're so busy doing other stuff. Whereas now you get to kind of sit back, watch the game. I remember those first few games though, you're so focused on making sure that you are so detailed and have everything right that you're not even enjoying anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it honestly took probably that first full season to kind of get comfortable with it. You develop a relationship, as you know, with like the off-ice officials and stuff, which helps that whole relationship happen. And then you really feel like you're part of the game, right? Because the people in the crowd are depending on you to let them know the information.
That's right. Like I said, when there's a controversial call against the Moose or the Jets, I shouldn't be giddy about it, but I get a little bit giddy. I'm like, oh, they're going to absolutely hate this one. Yeah. So, I'm trying to deliver it seriously with like a little bit of, can you believe the ref made that call? But inside I'm like, woo, this is pretty fun. I'm going to have people react.
You're the bearer of good news and bad news.
That's right. That's exactly right. So you've been here for a few seasons now. What are some Moose memories that stick out for you?
Well, when I got started, it was kind of starting right in the pandemic. So that was a bit of a learning on by the seat of your pants for a little bit there, especially with the amount of fans that we didn't have. But then also for me, we haven't had any deep playoff runs or anything like that just yet, but that's coming, I hope.
Yep.
But for me, it's been, and I don't know if you get this too, but when you get the list of players for their opening night roster, or player gets sent down or something like that, and you look at that player and you see the name and you're like, man, I'm gonna have fun saying that name.
Yeah.
Like an Axel Jonsson Fjallby, right? Like it's just there's certain names that I look at when I see the roster and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a fun one. And as the public address announcer, I mean that's you're using your voice as your instrument, right?
Yeah.
So you can just have lots of fun with that. So honestly, that's been my favorite part about this job so far is just the way you can animate the calls and the names. Yeah,
definitely.
How about for you? You had a lot of playoff runs amongst your time.
Yeah, well, the first year here was the NHL lockout year, so a lot of the young talent, we would have been the farm team of the Canucks, so a lot of the younger, I remember Ryan Kessler being a big part of that team back in 04, 05, so, and obviously he went on to have the success that he had. I think we made it to the conference finals that year before we lost to Chicago. And I just remember, Rochester Ryan Miller was the goalie for Rochester for the Americans in the second round. And I still get chills thinking about saying last minute of play in the clinching game when the Moose had, I think, a 4-goal lead at that point in time. And it got so loud. Yeah. People were so excited about it. And I was like, ooh, that felt really good. It felt really good to have a whole city behind you. And I got to experience that again in 2009 when we went to the Calder Cup final, which, boy, the game 2, and I think it was Jason Jaffrey having the hat trick in that game, and the roof blew off the place. It was so loud. It was so awesome. It was so fun. It was really cool to see a bunch of guys. PK Subban played here and got booed relentlessly every time he touched the puck when he played for Hamilton. Yeah. And then a few years later, he's back here playing for Montreal, and he got booed relentlessly every time he touched the puck. So, yeah, a lot of good memories working for the Moose, for sure.
So, one question, I probably should have picked your brain on this earlier, but, you had no PA experience when you went into this?
No, I had radio for, I think I had barely done it for 5 or 6 years at that point in time.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and like me, just radio to kind of fall back on. Did you try to emulate somebody? Did you try to what did you try to do to get yourself into that sort of that voice?
Okay, so I tried to really. I think I just have a natural way of how I want to announce things that I kind of just did. The guy who was Calgary's PA announcer was super over the top, but I really liked him. I think he still does it. His name's Beasley. And then there was the classic Maple Leaf Gardens guy who was so dry. The Leafs could have won the Stanley Cup, which it's not going to happen. But he would have delivered it the same way as a 5-3 loss to the Canadiens. So I was kind of just striving for somewhere in between, and I gave myself the wiggle room to kind of adapt how I was going to do it over the years. If there was something I liked, if there was something I didn't like, I was very open to commentary and criticism, and I just wanted to continue to grow. And even still to this day, I don't think I don't think I sound now what I'm going to sound like 5 years from now or 10 years from now. I'm going to hopefully get even better at the craft as I develop, right?
Yeah, it's always a work in progress, it seems like.
What about you? Did you have someone that you were looking up to?
Honestly, I had gone to so many games hearing your voice, right? So that was, but that's true, Jay, right? You've been doing this for 20 years, right? I went to a lot of hockey games over the course of 20 years.
Man. That's nice to hear.
And so you go by what you hear, right? But like you said, it's always work in progress. There's times where you announce things a certain way and you're like, oh man, that sounded stupid or something. You know what I mean? And you try to change it for the next time.
This is something that I still even think about to this day. My first Moose games, that first season, I would push my voice so hard that it would crack on certain things.
That happened to
and
me
it
a couple of times.
it was like, wow, I just did that in front of I just did that in front of 15,000 people. Ugh, it was the worst. But it's good that when that stuff happens, as long as you don't beat yourself up too much about it, and you go, okay, I'm going to put myself in a position where I do that a little differently, so it doesn't end up happening in front of 15,000 people next time.
Well, I mean, it's quite a testament, I would say, someone like you who started off with the Manitoba Moose, went to the NHL, made it to the NHL, right? Also got the opportunity to call some World Cup of hockey games, right? When the World Cup was here. That must have been a heck of an experience to do that.
Yeah, this has taken me all around the world. I've been to, I've done games in Helsinki. I've done games in Toronto. I've done games in Regina. So, I mean, they're not all winners. But it's taken me to places I could never have imagined going. And I think about what Mr. Chipman said when he had the press conference about purchasing the Thrashers and moving them to Winnipeg. He said something about, kind of like the AHL, we've been called up to the NHL, and that's kind of always how I viewed it. I'm so grateful for my time with the Moose, because the crew that we were there with, we treated it as though it were Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals every single night. We wanted to have fun, sure, but we wanted to treat it with the seriousness that it deserved. We are a professional hockey team in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. That's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty special thing to be a part of. And I'm just, like I said, I'm so grateful that the organization has shown me loyalty over these past 20 years to keep me around, because it could have been a very easy thing for them to move on. I'm just so grateful that I'm here. Could never have imagined it.
Well, we're happy you're still here too, Jay. And I'm happy to be part of the PA fraternity.
Well,
now,
I'm happy that you're a part of it. And I got to say, man, I've been to a few Moose games that you've called, and you're excellent. Like you do an excellent job at delivering the information. You bring the personality to it. I really appreciate what you do. So thanks for being a part of this, man.
Right on.
That was awesome.
So this Saturday, the 23rd, we're actually going to kind of relive some of these memories. We're going to get all the PA guys back together to do this. It's our 25th anniversary game, so we're going to celebrate the last 25 years. So I know you're going to do a period from the booth. Evan will also do a period from the booth. I'll do a period from the booth.
Are we going to rock, paper, scissors to see who gets which period?
If they go to overtime, who knows what will happen, right? So we hope you'll join us there. Lots of memories to look back on. The 25th season game of the Manitoba Moose this Saturday.